Hi, and welcome to this screencast. My name is Ian Duffy, and I'm a Google Summer of Code student partaking in a project set out by the Apache Cloudstack group. In this screencast, I will be going through a continuous test environment that was set up for testing changes that I make to the Cloudstack project. We will be using Jenkins for this. So, on the screen at the moment, you see a Jenkins screen with all the jobs. If I come up here and click on Cloudstack 4.2 Pipeline, we'll see what the first job is to the last job. And then my first job, I pull down non-open source components for the Cloudstack project from one of the community members' GitHub repos. So we'll go and look at the configuration of this. It is pretty simple. It simply uses the Jenkins Git plugin to pull down this repository on its default branch, and then goes on to run the build master non-OSS stage. If we go back to our pipeline, we can see that is the next stage. So we can open that up again and look at its configuration. So this simply pulls down the Cloudstack codebase from Git. It's my private clone of Cloudstack. It's pulling it from the master branch. And then if we scroll down further, we see it copies over all the non-open source dependencies that were downloaded in the first stage. It installs them and then compiles Cloudstack with the developer profile, the system VM, the simulator, and non-open source components. From this stage, it then goes on to static analysis. Within static analysis, the code is quality tested with Sonar Source. So I'll open up Sonar Source. This is Sonar Source. You can see the only project I have is Apache Cloudstack. So we can open it up and see all sorts of stats about the project. This is just about the classes, the lines of code, the comments, the amount of duplications within code, the complexity of certain areas of the code, and violations within the code. If I open up the critical violations, I can see exactly where and what the violations are. So let's do this. Okay, so here I see different rules that are at fault, the files where those rules are at fault, the packages, and the components. So let's have a look at one, for example. Avoid catch and trouble. So I'll click onto that. I'll see all my classes over here that are breaking it. And if I click onto one of these classes, I'll see exactly the line number that's at fault. So that's Sonar Source. If I go back to my pipeline, we'll move along to the next stage. Start Simulator. This is an interesting stage. So I'll go in and look at the configuration and explain it. Configure project. Okay, so it pulls down the code that we compiled earlier in the build master non-open source stage. It deploys the Cloudstack database. It deploys the simulator database. Now this here is a little Jenkins trick. When Jenkins finishes a job, it goes through the process tree searching for all processes with the build ID of the job. If the build ID matches the job, then it will kill that process. So here I back up the current process, I change the build ID, I launch the Cloudstack management server, and I reset my build ID back. I then wait while localhost does not respond on 1896. So Jenkins stalls while my management server is not up. When my management server is up, Marvin gets ran, and a configuration from Advanced CGF is deployed. Advanced CGF will set out things like the zones, the pods, the hosts, storage, and elements like that. So when this stage completes, I'll have an environment that I can run integration tests against. So if I go over to integration test stage, open it up, you can see all the integration tests that were ran against the simulator. If I go to console output of this job, I can see what ones are started and if they were successful. If I go into each job, I can see, here we go, I can see the exact tests that were ran and if it was okay, the command line that was ran with it, and how long it took to run. So I'll give you a quick look at the configuration of this. So it's a configuration job, it's a configuration matrix job within Jenkins. We set up a variable with all the names of the tests and the first test to start with. So then we come down to our configuration, we're just simply launching the tests. Everywhere we have suite, it maps one of the test names up here. So we use nose tests, we execute our test, and we put the results out into an XML file. When this stage is finished, we trigger our stop simulator stage. Stop simulator stage simply just calls a Maven command that will turn off the management server. I'll give you a look at the quick configuration of that. Here we go. So for the purpose of this screencast, I'm going to kick off the start simulator stage so we can see a management server come up configured with the simulator. So it will have zones and hosts and different things like that. So I'm going to hit build now, and we will see it triggering off there. If I open my build history, I can open up the console output so we can go through what's happening. So here it's extracting the archive that was created in the build master non-open source stage. Just give this a moment to complete. Okay, now it's going to deploy our Cloudstack database. Okay, that's succeeded. It's going to deploy our simulator database now. And that has succeeded. It's trying to start our management server now. And you'll see here this is waiting for the management server to come up. If I open a terminal window, I can look at the log for the management server and I should be able to see it coming up. Okay, so here we see our normal console output for the Jetty server coming up. You can see our Jetty server has been started. And it's now ready to go. So this is continued on and it's deploying our master config file, our advanced config file with Marvin. So in a few moments we would see text scrolling by here alerting that our storage is up and we have hosts. So we'll wait for that to happen. This will kick on to run integration tests, and while that's happening in the background I will open the Cloudstack management UI so you can see the integration tests bringing up instances. So just wait a moment for this to complete. There's that text scrolling by telling us that everything has been brought up. This will shortly go on to run its integration test now in a minute. Okay, there's our console proxy VM coming up. Okay, it's finished and it's moving on to its integration test. So I'll just open up that build. Okay, you can see it's running the integration tests there, the ones that are flashing. So what's going on? I'll open up another browser window and I'll open up the Cloudstack manager that it started. Okay, sorry, port 8080. Okay, so here's the manager that it started. I will log in and have a look. So if I come over to my infrastructure tab, I can see that it successfully deployed my advanced CFG file. So I have my tree host, my 2 clusters, my 1 pod, my 1 zone, my primary storage, my secondary storage, and my 2 system VMs, and all this is online and up. If I come over to instances, I will probably see some that the integration tests have triggered. Okay. So when this finishes, it will run the stop simulator stage. The simulator will be shut down, and the pipeline will finish. So this is just my demo pipeline in the real environment. We have a final stage which packages up a RPM of the compiled code and uploads it to our local Yum repository. This allows us to make code changes, test them, and quickly deploy them to production. I hope you found this video interesting, and I hope to have detailed of how to set up your Jenkins setup like this for yourself. Goodbye.